Hi, this is Roy Worley. Welcome to the interview show that brings on guests from all walks of life. Yeah, it's here that they tell their stories and delve a little deeper into their lives to see what got them where they are. So grab a drink, have a seat, and relax, because this is the Leo Effect.
When was the last time a short movie shook your emotions to the core? When was the last time a short movie caused you to rethink everything you stood for? When was the last time a short movie made you proud to be an American? When was the last time you felt the emotion to stand up and cheer after a short movie? The new short movie, I've Got Your Six, written and directed by Bill Foster, one of the industry's newest and fastest climbing directors, will answer all of those questions. Rarely has there been so much packed into a short movie that when you leave, you'll feel more proud of our American military veterans. A movie that was cast only with American military veterans will have you on the edge of your seat, cheering for our veterans and what makes America great. I've Got Your Six will be hitting the film festival scene soon. Be prepared to drop what you're doing and go see this powerful movie when it comes to your area. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of The Leo Effects. I hope this day finds you well. Today, I'm joined by a guest that you've heard many, many times so far since the new way of doing my videos and things. He's actually an amazing guest. He's done a lot of voiceover stuff, but I'm going to let him tell you about that in a minute. But he introduces himself at the beginning of all my videos now, but I'm going to introduce him one more time. Mr. Roy Worley. Hello, sir.
Hello, Ray. How are you?
I am very well. Very happy that you're on the show today and I get to talk with you and figure out a little more about you.
I'm glad to be here, man. I just hope we don't get confused. Our names are so closely similar.
Right, yeah. Pretty close.
Yeah.
So the first question I usually ask, and, you know, we'll keep things the same, is what do you feel like you may be most known for, or like what is it that you do?
Well, that's two different questions. I think I'm most known for being a really good granddaddy.
There you go.
I've got 6 grandkids, 3 boys, 3 girls. They're the joy and pride of our life, my wife and I, Rebecca. But what I do is what's called voiceover work. It can be also called I'm a voice artist or voiceover artist or voice talent. I do audiobooks, so in that instance, I'm an audiobook producer, narrator. So a lot of different things. It's one of those things where people, if they've heard a commercial I've done, that they don't usually think about the guy, but I shouldn't even think about the guy or gal, because our job is to put the spotlight on the product, our clients.
Right.
And so I've done a few things in a lot of local markets. I've done, television and radio commercials. Last year I did some radio commercials for a fast food restaurant chain up in Boston. I've done some other restaurants. I think probably the thing that is more my specialty is doing a Southern accent, because I am from Memphis, Tennessee originally. So in that vein, I've done some restaurants that are barbecue flavored or in the South or in Texas, and I've done 12 to 15 audiobooks that required a cowboy. So,
nice.
And then on hold, yeah, and that's really the most fun of anything that I do. I really enjoy that. I do, as you know, and as your listeners know, some intros for podcasts, and I have starting to get more of that work. And then one of my biggest clients is a chain of hospitals here in the Midwest, Franciscan Health, and I've done what is called computer-based training or e-learning, where they train their employees about rules and regulations of the hospital and dress codes and all kinds of things like that. Mm-hmm. I've done some commercials for them, and mostly what I do now is all their on-hold messaging. So if you were to call there and get, you'd probably not even get put on hold, or just go right to the message, and you'd hear something like, "Thank you for calling Franciscan Health," something like that. So,
yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I'm impressed. What do you think it was that made you wake up and decide to do this one day?
I was jobless.
Well, that's a good way.
Since all kidding aside, I've been in ministry, pastoral ministry, and missionary ministry. I'm also fluent in Spanish because we lived in Chile for a while doing mission work. And an assignment that I had here in Illinois came to an end, and I started looking for what was next, and did not want to be in full-time ministry again. I wanted to start a business so that I could be, self-supporting. And ever since my voice changed when I was about, 3 or 4, people have said, for lack of a better way to describe it, you've got a good voice for radio. And interestingly enough, when I graduated from high school in Memphis, Tennessee, I went to the University of Memphis and began majoring in radio, TV, and film. But then after that, became a Christ follower and felt like I was supposed to be in ministry. And so, being only 19 or 20 years of age, it never occurred to me that a preacher could use a degree in communication. So I changed majors.
Wow.
And then all these years later, I'm now back in not necessarily TV and film, although one of my goals is to narrate documentaries, hopefully this year. And so I'm using my voice, and it's a tool that God has given me, and it's right now putting food on the table.
That's great. That's amazing. Just, using your voice for the greater good, I guess.
Yeah. I've excuse me, I've done some e-learning for a pet store, a national pet store. I won't name it, but it was employee training, and it was very, very interesting, the things you learn. I was training them how to make the rounds to check on all the animals and what to do if you find some deceased animals of the smaller variety, not necessarily the puppies and kittens, but, your hamsters and turtles and things like that. And I found that very intriguing. Huh. And I've also done some e-learning for Tiffany and Company, the big jeweler in New York. Done quite a bit of work for them over a 3-year period.
Nice.
So you learn things. Yeah, it's really a lot of fun. But again, I think the thing that I enjoy the most is narrating cowboy novels, westerns.
That's interesting. What draws you to the what? I mean, I know you said you're originally from Tennessee. Is that what draws you to the westerns?
I think it's probably because as a kid I grew up watching westerns and western movies on television, and at the drive-in when the family would go to the drive-in, the late 1960s, and we'd watch John Wayne movies and things like that. Mm-hmm. Then all the reruns across the years, and then when I was the first thing that actually I got a job in voiceover was an audiobook, and they wanted a cowboy accent, and I booked it. No pun intended, but I booked the gig. And then after that, I started auditioning for more books on a platform called acx.com. It's owned by Amazon, which also owns audible.com, which is where a lot of audiobooks are sold these days.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and so I found that once I got into that genre, I enjoyed some of the writings. In fact, there's a writer that many people might be familiar with named Zane Grey. He was at the turn of the previous century, and a lot of his Western novels were actually turned into movies by Hollywood in the early days when the Westerns were really popular. And so having done those and getting some good reviews, I went on and auditioned, and one of my favorite writers right now is an author named Scott Harris. And boy, Scott's a good writer. I narrated 6 of his books in a series called Kaz Vigilante Hunter.
Oh,
and
okay.
They're fast-paced. They're about this, really bad hombre who's a good guy, and he hunts down bad guys, and they don't last long, that kind of thing. And every book is in a different town, a different city, and they're usually they're short reads and they're short listens. They're only about 3 hours to 3.5 hours in length. So if a person has never listened to audiobooks, they would be good ones to listen to.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to check those out. That sounds pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah.
It's always good to have fast-paced stuff these days. It seems like attention spans are getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, go ahead and buy all 6 and help me feed my hungry dog.
There you go. And kind of along those lines, I'm curious, what's the fuel behind wanting to do documentaries?
Well, that's a good question. I listened to and watched a few documentaries, and I think I can do it. I think that's in my wheelhouse of my skill set. And, it's like anything else. When you've got a job, if you're self-employed, you look for, what would be your bestseller? In our industry, we call it, what is your money voice?
Oh, okay.
And, cowboy novels is one thing that I can do well. And I've done some very small documentaries. For instance, if you were to go to the website for the Shenandoah National Park over in Virginia,
mm-hmm.
I narrated, I think it was 4 or 5 documentary type videos talking about how the park came about and all the people in the valley that got displaced and things like that. And it's a documentary, but it was designed to help educate high school students, and so they live on that website. And that really kind of whet my appetite. I did. There was a German guy who is a scientist, young scientist from Germany, that found me on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And he was doing some research on an endangered species frog in South America. And I narrated 2 documentaries that he did on that frog. So that really whet my appetite for it, to answer your question.
Oh, that's amazing. That'd be so much fun. Normally when people think of documentary, they think of that, this bird likes to do this thing.
Yeah. Don't give up your day job, Ray.
So what do you speaking of day jobs and all of that, what would, do you think you'd have one piece of just absolutely crucial advice to give to somebody breaking out into this industry?
Yeah, just know that it's a lot of work. I know a lot of people get told that they have nice voices, and they probably do. And the thing of it is that having a good voice, in a stereotypical sense, it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's really how you learn how to interpret the written copy in front of you. And it's different for every genre. It's different for commercial, on television. One of my coaches in the industry told me that, really we ought to call it voice under, because your voice is under the picture on the screen in television, pointing people to the product. Whereas in radio, you read the copy with a little more oomph and a little more punch, because nobody can see you or see anything on a screen. And then, and even in documentaries, there are different kinds of documentaries. For instance, a nature documentary might have some humorous moments where the fox is bouncing along the top of the snow and does a swan dive into the snow to grab a mouse under it, and you would treat that with a little levity in the way that you read it. And all these things are learned through experienced coaches. I've had about 5 or 6 different coaches. I've got one right now by the name of Sean Pratt, who has narrated over 1,000 audiobooks.
Wow.
And yeah, he's a master, particularly at nonfiction. And he has narrated so many different books. And so he's got a number of students, and I met with him yesterday, as a matter of fact, on Skype. And he's very thorough, gives us homework we have to complete, and then we go over it, and then he has definite goals in mind for us so that, we can make a living if you choose. Some people just, all they do is audiobooks. And that's just one of the spokes in my wheel voiceover that I do.
Jeez.
But it's a lot of hard work. A person needs to get coaching, then get, and that costs money, then invest in a professionally made demo, particularly your commercial demo. And if somebody goes to my site, they can see right away. You can click on my demos. One is a commercial demo, one is a narration demo, one is a promo demo, and so on. And then you have to have a professionally made website, and then you've got to learn the business end of it, not just the narration, because this is a business. Right. And so there are some people out there. If anyone's interested, they can shoot me an email, and I can put them on to some people that I know who are not only accomplished and successful voice actors, but they love to coach. I don't. I don't coach, but I do. It's not that I don't love it. It's just that I don't really have the time for it.
Right. Right.
So, but
Cool.
it's very gratifying at times, and sometimes it's dry, and nothing's coming in. But
Right.
that's the way business is.
Yeah. Of all of your past projects, do you have one that you think that you would say was like your favorite one that you did?
I did a series of 24 videos for Firestone that live online on YouTube, and they featured Mario Andretti. And it was some pretty clever advertising on their part, because the video might start off with showing Mario Andretti sitting in bed reading a paper in a robe, and in the narration, which I got to do, said, "Not many people can beat Mario Andretti with a steering wheel in their hand." And then it goes on and said, "But maybe you can beat him in squeezing an orange." And then it shows people racing to squeeze orange juice. And the whole thing is you video yourself doing the same things that Mario was doing on screen and send it in. Maybe you can win something.
Oh,
And
okay.
it's crazy stuff, like wrapping a vacuum cord up after vacuuming, and folding bed sheets and things like that were crazy.
That's
But that
cool.
one stands out. Yeah, and then I did a commercial that lives online for Cheez-Its Duos, and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. See, and a lot of people are like, man, they've probably been listening all this time going, I really think I know this guy's voice. I've heard him somewhere before. I think you just gave it away.
Yeah, maybe so. You never know.
So, one of the things that you and I had talked about when we initially met, I kind of want to touch on a little bit is,
Yeah.
you do audiobooks, you've done commercials, and, you wanted to do documentaries and things like that. So what about the most common, well, people probably don't even think about it the same as you were saying, but what about doing cartoon work, voicing cartoons?
That is a very interesting area, very exciting, and a very popular one. But a lot of things, like, for instance, let's take cartoons, or what we call is animation.
Right.
Most of that is done in L.A., and a lot of times people who hired you to do that want you to come in studio to record with, I think, with other actors, maybe sometimes by yourself. And so I have auditioned for a couple of things. I haven't gotten anything yet, but I'm not really making a concerted effort. It's kind of like, I need to build a client base in certain areas, like phone messaging, or we call it telephony, and I've gotten a good bit of that. I'm building my audiobook, base and portfolio, and I'm improving in that thanks to some good coaching by Sean. And but animation, you pretty much have to live in LA to get into that. I actually got some coaching from a guy named Brian Summers, and he actually was the voiceover in a video game named The Walking Dead, and one of the star voices in that. And I've never seen the video game, but apparently he was very successful, and so he does some coaching. He's out, I think, in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
And and so I'm open to cartoon work, but I think I need to really nail down a few things that I know that I can be successful in before I start spreading my wings in that direction.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
And in a situation of a superhero style animation, would you prefer to be a hero or a villain?
Oh man, either way. But you know what? What's really crazy, and this is, since I am a pastor, it's going to sound weird, but I love doing the evil voices. An audiobook, one of the first audiobooks I did was an audiobook called Asuan, Sword of Fire. And it is in the high fantasy genre, meaning that it is Christian-based, and the author was just a phenomenal writer. He's written a trilogy, and I had the privilege of narrating the first one. And I did 13 different accents for characters, from Italian to German. He had some characters that were giants, and they all, one spoke with a German accent. And worked with my sound engineer to make it sound like an echoing, booming voice.
Yeah.
Really, really funny, and just did a Arnold Schwarzenegger there. And then in that, there was this evil character. And I tell you, I think maybe because it was a big stretch for me to do it, it was very gratifying, but I enjoyed doing the voice of the evil character in that book.
That's awesome. And we talked about it before a little bit too, that I think everybody kind of likes breaking out of the norm and being that imaginary bad guy once in a while. So
yeah, absolutely.
Definitely fun.
Yeah, you bet.
So is there any one particular project that you might really have your eyes on right now?
I can't give you specifics because when we do auditions, I have a couple of talent agents, and one is in Chicago. Great people at Big Mouth Talent, appropriate for voiceover, right? Big Mouth Talent. But they handle on camera and other clients as well. And they've been very good to me in sending a lot of good auditions. I did get one for a radio audition a couple of years back at Christmas time for Sears.
Oh, all right.
And that was good. But I've auditioned this week for some well-known products that would be national ads that people nationwide would see on television. And because it's in the audition phase, and even if I had, let's say if I won the audition, so to speak, and I knew it, and it was going to record this Friday, I still couldn't tell.
Right.
Because that would kind of ruin the surprise. And, the advertisers, rightly so, they want to control how they put things out to the public.
Right. Yeah, and that makes sense.
I respect that, yeah. So, but, that is really, I think to answer your question, is the dream of every voice talent that auditions for commercials, to land that golden goose of a national ad, because it's pretty good pay.
I agree. They're, aside from the pay part of it, which, don't get me wrong, that's always nice. I think another big part of it is kind of a little bit of that notoriety. Like, I did that. That was my thing. There
are a lot of people out there that will make sure you know what they've done. Some egos on parade. But I found that, if I just play my cards close to my vest, and if people ask, I'm sure, I'm glad to tell, I'm glad to share. But I guess because of my upbringing in the South and a Christian family, my parents said, man, nobody likes a braggart.
Gotcha.
And so, we tend not to. Now, I've done a little of that. I'm guilty. Everybody is. But I have to go wash my mouth out afterwards.
With the soap you just did a commercial for, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. Not like that. Way to go, Ray.
Oh, man. This has been a good time. So, we're kind of drawing up to the end here. It's actually been a whole lot of fun. Time's just been blowing by, but I don't want to run out of time before we get an opportunity for you to tell everybody where to go with, like, where your social medias are. You can tell them that email, because you had mentioned that earlier, and just get your info out there.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly serve your clients, and if they have a commercial and a book they've written they want to potentially be audiobook, on-hold messages for small or large businesses. I've got rates for both. But my website is royworleyvo.com. That's Roy, R-O-Y, Worley, W-O-R-L-E-Y, V-O.com. And my email address is roy@royworleyvo.com. And on the website, you can see all my contact information and listen to demos. I'm long overdue to update my webpage and kind of do some rebranding. But it would be a joy to work with any of your listeners.
Awesome. And you're on all the traditional social medias, right? You're on
Facebook. Oh, yeah, you
that.
Did ask about that. Roy Worley Voiceovers on Facebook.
Okay.
I have a Twitter account. I think it's at Roy Worley. I don't remember. And then I've got an Instagram account. I'm on LinkedIn. I got several thousand connections on LinkedIn, and have gotten some work through there. Recently got some e-learning work through there, which was very interesting. It was a whole segment on training bartenders about.
Oh, wow.
About laws. If you know somebody's overserved, you need to stop serving them.
That's fair.
And a whole lot of other interesting things. So, yeah.
So, since you narrated all of those trainings, does that mean that you are also qualified?
Heavens, no. Oh, my goodness. The most complex one I did was for a course called PMP. Training is Project Management Protocol, I think is what it stands for.
Okay.
And it's an international standard that corporations use to take care of projects and stuff. So if a U.S. company goes to, let's say Germany, and they're collaborating, and they both have been trained in the same protocol, then they know how things should function and work. But, dude, it was so complex. My hat's off to the people that have that capability.
Wow. Well, hopefully one day somebody can, send me a link to what that would look like.
Yeah.
So for right this second, I just want to say thank you so much, Roy, for coming on the show. You've been a fantastic guest. You're very funny. You've got a great voice. It worked. You're an amazing guest. Thank you for coming.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity, Ray. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and to all the listeners that tuned in, tuned on, clicked it, whatever you did to get here, in the description of the podcast itself, I post up Roy's website info, so you can always just click on that for quick and easy single-click things. And he does my intro, so that's kind of, a commercial in of itself right there. You can hear the kind of stuff he does. So
yeah, and when they reach out to me, please let me know that you heard about me through Ray's podcast.
Yeah. I mean, we got to share the love. We all got to band together. We're all a family here.
That's right.
So thank you all very much for listening, and we will see you later.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, creatures of all ages, what an amazing show. Thank you for lending an ear and joining us. I'm the host, Ray Rumsey, and if you want to hear more interviews, simply head to anywhere podcasts are heard, Facebook or Twitter, and search The Leo Effects, with an A, not an E. If you'd like to hear me doing silly voices and making a general fool of myself, head over to Shattered Dungeons on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We live stream every Tuesday night. More projects are in the works. For now, stay tuned for more interviews. To book yourself as a guest, you can head to theleoeffects.wixsite.com/podcast or send me an email at theleoeffects@gmail.com. Remember, this has been The Leo Effects, and great shows require great listeners, just like you. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.